Hello and welcome back to another episode of Diablo to D&D. My name is David, and today I'm going to be talking about new changes that I'm making to new additions, not changes, that I'm making to the content files. So in my progress to become a better designer, to become a better, to study Dungeons & Dragons a little bit better, I have decided to stretch my creative muscles out a little bit and and create new systems. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about socketing items and gems today. Runes I'll be putting off till a little bit later because they're a little bit more complex. So let's jump into socketing items. So in Diablo, there are occasionally your gear, your helm, your body armor, and your weapons and shields occasionally come with sockets. This is how rune words are made, by inserting socketable items called runes into those items in a specific order, and it, by their powers combined, created something that is greater than the sum of their parts. However, you can also add gems of various qualities to those sockets and get different effects out of them. The rules surrounding rune words are something I'll save for a later time, but by and large, you put something into the socket and you get an additional effect out of it. Sometimes it's extra damage, sometimes it's additional defense, sometimes it's resistances or something like that. So there's a huge amount of variability of customization that you can do to your items. In D&D, things get a little weird because those systems don't exist. So this is a completely new system that I have to port over. I have the basics down, and I'm just going to read what I have written so far. Occasionally, armor, shields, and weapons may come with one or more sockets. Certain items, like runes and special gemstones, can be inserted into these sockets to grant the item unique offensive or defensive abilities. Once inserted, the gemstone or rune cannot be removed, so be careful about what you choose to put into that socket. More information can be found in the items file under gemstones and runes. Sockets can be added to an item by a specialist crafter. It costs XGP and Y time, currently undefined. I'll save that balancing for later, to properly prepare the item. When the item is finished, it gains 1d6 sockets. If the number rolled is higher than the maximum number an item can have, the item has its maximum instead. So this is almost exactly how it works in Diablo 2. Once you complete Act 5, or one of the quests in Act 5, then Larzuk, who is the armorer for the barbarians, can add a random number of sockets to an item. So you'll notice maximum number of sockets on this table here, 1 through 6. On the one side is just magic items. Anything that has an effect, you can only have one item, or one socket. However, 2 through 6, I have gone through the list of weapons in the D&D rules and distributed them among these numbers according to a lot of just kind of vibes. Of course, bigger weapons have more sockets, and smaller weapons have fewer sockets, that kind of thing. So for 2 sockets, we have blowgun, dart, hand crossbow, dagger, sickle, sling, and whip. These are fairly light, fairly small. I debated this back and forth, but yes, you can put a socket into a sling. The idea behind it is that it's like attached to the back of the pouch as you're slinging it. Maybe you can attach it to the cords. I don't know. Just something that could work, I guess. 3 sockets are a little bit bigger. These are your clubs, hand axes, helms, light hammer, scimitar, and short sword. These are a little bit bigger. Helms, of course, are only 3. This is pulled directly from Diablo. 4 sockets are your fairly sizable weapons and armor and shields. So you have armor, light crossbow, flail, javelin, mace, morningstar, rapier, shield, and shortbow. These are where they start to get a little bit bigger, but not so unwieldy. 5 sockets are basically your versatile weapons, with one notable exception: battle axe, longsword, spear, trident, warpick, and warhammer. 6 is for the really big weapons and the quarterstaff: heavy crossbow, glaive, great axe, great club, great sword, halberd, lance, longbow, maul, pike, and quarterstaff. So most of those are pretty duh. They're your big two-handed weapons. The quarterstaff is in there and not in 5 because the sorceress also has like war staves, these big honkin' sticks. And I figured I might as well give you the possibility of getting something like obsession in a quarterstaff, because casters use them, and yeah, there's logic behind it. So some things about the cost and time that I've left up to variables, and the number of sockets that can be produced. This is entirely subject to change. I don't know if I want to have it as a random amount of sockets, or if I want to have it as a set amount. It costs 5,000 GP or 2,000 GP and 1 day to properly prepare an item, and it gives 1 socket per 2,000 and whatever, so that you can determine specifically exactly how many sockets you want to have. I think that's probably better, because that allows precise control over what you want to create. Instead of having a random amount, I could probably do both, actually, that you simply say it costs X amount and Y time, and it gets 1d6 sockets, or you can say you can prepare them specially and you pay twice as much to add a single socket, or something like that. It's all up in the air. Maybe, maybe not. Not entirely sure. But let's talk about what you can put into these sockets. First and foremost, runes are not ready. I ran into some issues with the runes, not the runes themselves, but the rune words. Because rune words are basically... Okay, Diablo 2 has a very simplistic system. It has bits and pieces that can be complex and can be intricate. But rune words are almost entirely all the same stuff. It's additional levels, additional damage, extra defense. That's basically everything that it comes down to. Maybe some faster run walk, maybe some... yeah, I don't know, maybe some other things. I probably won't do every single rune word. I might do the ones that are unique or special. You know, something like the class-specific rune words. Or something that, I can't remember, is it Vigor? Maybe Vigor is something that increases your movement speed. Maybe the new, well, I say new, they were released a year and a half ago. The helms for your mercenaries, like Bulwark and whatnot. I might do those, I might not. I'm not entirely sure. But let's put that aside for later, and let's talk about gems. Because gems are... freaking nightmare. Oh my gosh. Okay. So in Diablo, gems have 5 different qualities. There's chipped, flawed, regular, flawless, and perfect. This means that they have a level of effectiveness when you put it into an item, or when you put it into a weapon, armor, or shield. Diablo 3 introduced putting gems into jewelry. I'm going to save that one for later. For now, it's just going to be weapon, armor, and shield. So, another thing about the gemstones themselves. D&D already has gemstones. These are, the diamond that you need for Revivify, or the diamond that you need for True Resurrection, I think. I can't remember. So what I've done is, instead of just kind of pushing those all together, I have said that these gemstones are specifically cut and enchanted to provide bonuses when socketed into items. because of that, these are no longer just gemstones. These are quote unquote magical items. And that means that their cost is going to go up because these can give some pretty significant bonuses. I have determined that chipped is 100 GP, flawed is 500, regular is 1000, flawless is 5000, and perfect is 10,000. These can get very expensive, especially when you're creating an item and putting sockets into them and then socketing a bunch of gems into them. That can get pretty darn expensive, especially since you can't remove them yet. So there's a recipe for the Heraldric Cube for that, but that's later. With that out of the way, let's jump into the individual gemstones. Now, to clarify, not all of these have an effect determined just yet. In part because certain things like Magic Find for the Topaz doesn't translate very well into D&D. So there is a table that I'll get into at the very end of the gems, and I'll talk about all the stuff that I could do with it. So let's jump into the Amethyst. This is a gemstone, and when it is socketed into an item, it gains the following properties based on the item type and gem quality. I probably need to clarify what it means. Anyway, for weapons, the D&D version just gives attack rating. So that was pretty easy to do. It's just a bonus to attack rolls. Chipped and flawed are 1, regular and flawless are 2, and perfect is +3. This is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It is not a +1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 note, because that is very, very powerful. If you can get a sword and start stacking 4 bonuses in there, or 4 chipped gems for 400 gold, you get a permanent +4 to your attack rolls. Like, that is massive. So actually, now that I think about that, I might have to put in some rules about what can be inserted. Anyway, for the helms and the armor, it adds a bonus to the wearer's strength score. In Diablo 2, that's basically it. It's just a bonus to strength. Now, you'll notice that this is currently uncapped. I'm doing this to save words. But it is to a maximum of 20. All of this subject to change. Balance is going to go out the window for a while until I actually sit down and put this to the test. So just bear with me for right now. All right, for the shield, this one increases armor class. It's just a +1, +1, +2, +2, +3 bonus to AC. Fairly simple. This is what Amethyst does in Diablo 2. That's just what they do. With the diamond, it gets a little bit more iffy. Not problematic per se, but a little more nuanced. So the weapon benefit is that it deals additional damage to undead creatures. Diamond's the symbol of purity kind of thing. So it is 1d4, 2d4, 3d4, 4d4, 5d4 of the weapon's type to undead creatures. I don't know if that's appropriate. I originally had it as 1d4, 1d6, 1d8, so on and so forth, but I wanted to differentiate it from the elemental gems, the Emerald, Ruby, Sapphire, and Topaz, and it is very, very narrow. It only activates against one specific type of creature, so I think it's okay, but again, it could be a bit of an issue. For the diamond in the armor, it's a bonus to attack rating. That's the exact same as the weapons for the Amethyst. Now, it's not as good of a rate, but it's basically the same thing. So, Now, when we get to the shield, things get a little interesting. In Diablo, the diamond gives all resistance, and that can be difficult to port over. It's blank right here, but I'm thinking maybe some kind of damage reduction, receiving -1 damage to fire, cold, lightning, poison, maybe? I don't know. And then graduating up as the quality increases. But we'll see. I don't know. Now we are going to get to the 4 elemental gems. So for the weapons, the emerald deals poison damage, the ruby deals fire damage, sapphire is cold damage, and the topaz is lightning damage. It's the same scaling across all of them. 1 damage, then 1d3, then 1d4, 1d6, 1d8. That by itself is not an issue. It's just additional damage. For the shield, they're all resistance to the damage type that they deal. So not much to talk about there. Haven't figured out how I'm going to translate that over. The armor is where things get a little trippy. For the emerald, that's super easy. It's just dexterity. It works the same in D&D as it works in Diablo. It's just dexterity. The ruby gets a little weird because the ruby adds life. So you can potentially just say that you increase your maximum hit points. But I find that a little, not frustrating, but I find that a little, what's the word? It could be better. It could fit more nicely. The amethyst increases strength. The emerald increases dexterity. This one increases life. So maybe constitution. And that's what I went with, is just that it bumps up the constitution score. The sapphire increases mana. It's the opposite of the ruby. Ruby increases life. Sapphire increases mana. We don't have mana in D&D. So I can't exactly, give like mana regeneration or an additional spell slot. That's ridiculously good. So I'm thinking increasing one of the soft stats, your charisma, your intelligence, or your wisdom. And I can pull potentially from Diablo 4, where they have the sapphire, because it's not in Diablo 3. But right now I'm leaving it up to further analysis as I think about it over the next couple of weeks. Now for the topaz, I'm going to skip over the skull for now. For the topaz, when socketed into armor, it gives % chance to find additional magic items. This is not a mechanic in D&D, so it could be anything. Again, I don't want to deal with like spell casting. It could be, I don't know, you get, identify costs. Or not costs, but like you can identify magic items in half the amount of time or something. Or I can just tie it in, like with Diablo 3 and Diablo 4, into your stats. Diablo 3, it gives intelligence. So maybe something there, I guess. Actually, now that I think about that, Topaz gives intelligence. Okay. Sapphire in Diablo 4 gives willpower, which could be like, willpower is more like charisma, isn't it? Yeah, okay, but druids use it, so it's like wisdom. It's more like wisdom. And then diamonds could be charisma. So I could go with that. Okay, so I've dropped a note there. I'll deal with it. I'll deal with it later. So let's talk about the skull. Now, it's a gem, according to Diablo. What I'm thinking it is like either some kind of rock that's been specially carved to look like a skull, or maybe it's a demon skull or something that's been properly engraved and prepared. Either way, it's going to be a socketable item. So for the weapon in Diablo 2, this is life leech, this is dual leech, life and mana. This could be fairly easy, that whenever you hit, or maybe when you deal a critical hit with the weapon, it gains you back a handful of life. So it adds a little bit of life leech to your fighters, your barbarians and whatnot. For the armor, it increases your life and mana regeneration. This one was fairly easy. Whenever you regain hit points, you regain additional X amount of hit points. For the shields, it's pretty simple. It's thorns. Whenever you get hit, you deal damage. Pretty simple. Now, before I sign off the video, I want to talk about this table that is here at the end of the gem section. This is all of the gems and everything that they can be slotted into, and then the three rows are the 3 games: Diablo 2, Diablo 3, Diablo 4. I don't know if Diablo 4 has gems yet. I just kind of, I'll put that aside and I'll deal with it when I get to it. But for now, this is kind of a comparison of all of the abilities that the gems have when socketed into items. This is just kind of like me looking at, what can I do? And that's pretty much it. I think some themes are fairly easy. The Sapphire is cold, the Ruby is fire, Topaz is lightning, Emerald is poison, Diamond is everything. I'll eventually come up with something, of course, because this is what the channel is about. This is what I do. But I would be very interested in hearing people's feedback on what they could suggest for the different things that are missing. Now, keep in mind, this is all Diablo 2, but I'm kind of potentially drawing inspiration, perhaps, from the other 2 games. As an example, look at the Ruby versus the Amethyst. The Amethyst in Diablo 2 gives strength for the helm and the armor, but it gives vitality and barrier generation in the other 2 games, a very defensive-focused thing. Ruby, on the other hand, in Diablo 2 gives life versus strength in Diablo 2 or Diablo 3 and Diablo 4. So they got switched. So maybe I include that in what I'm doing here, or maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, I think I've said everything that I want to say, so I am just going to close it out. You can contact me at XenosFan2, that is XENOZFAN2 on Blue Sky and Reddit. And you can contact the channel directly at DiabloTODND on Blue Sky and YouTube. Thank you much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good whatever.